We continue now at the top of Daf Lamed Chesam Aleph in Meseches Sotah. This is Sotah Daf 38a. The Mishnah continues that in the Beis HaMikdash, when the Kohanim bless the people, they pronounce the name of Hashem Kechsavo as it is written. As Rashi says, Kechsavo b'Yud Hey, meaning as it's written Yud Kei Vav Kei. But over Medina, but outside the Beis HaMikdash, they pronounce the name of Hashem as we pronounce it, Bekinuyo, with the nickname, so to speak. Rashi says Bekinuyo ba'Alef Dalid, again with Aleph Dalid. The Medina Kohanim nosim as Yedein Keneged Kaspein. In the Medina, outside of the Beis HaMikdash, the Kohanim would lift their hands up to the level of their shoulders. Rashi says, because there is a requirement to lift the hands, like we say in the Bryce in the Gemara. Over Mikdash, but in the Beis HaMikdash al Gabe Rashaim, they would lift their hands above their heads. Rashi says, over Mikdash Lamala Me Rashaim, they would lift their hands above their heads. Because in the Beis HaMikdash, they blessed the people with the Shem HaMeforish, as we said, and the Shechina was above their hands. However, the Mishnah continues, Chutz mi Kohen Gadol she'eno magbias yadav l'mala min hatzitz, except for the Kohen Gadol, because he's not supposed to lift his hands above the tzitz. And Rashi says, She'en magbia l'mala min hatzitz as yadav mnei Hashem kasav olav, because he was wearing the tzitz on his head, and the tzitz had the name of Hashem on it, so his hands should not go above the tzitz. Rabbi Yehuda says, Af Kohen Gadol magbia yadav l'mala min hatzitz, even the Kohen Gadol, he is allowed to lift his hands above the tzitz. Shenemar, like it says, Vayisa Aaron es Yodav el Ha'am vayivarchim. This is talking about on the 8th day of the Miluim when they were dedicating the Mishkan. It says that Aaron lifted his hands. So even the Kohen Gadol, even if he's wearing the tzitz on his head, still he's allowed to lift his hands above the level of the tzitz. And the Gemara says, Tanu Rabban, and the rabbis taught, Kosevarchu. It says in the pasuk, this is how you should bless them. B'lashon hakodesh. You do it in Hebrew. Atomer b'lashon hakodesh. Oenu ela b'chol lashon. You say that it's in lashon hakodesh. Maybe it's in any language. Nemar kan kosevarchu v'nemar lahalon ela yamdu levarich esa'am. It says over here this language of kosevarchu, and it says by Hargrizim and Arevel, similar language. Malahalon b'lashon hakodesh. Just like over there, it's in lashon hakodesh. Afkan b'lashon hakodesh. So too when it comes to Nesias Kapayim. When it comes to the Birchas Kohanim, it has to be B'lashon HaKodesh. And the Gemara continues, the Brisa continues, Rabbi Yehuda says, Eino tzarech, we don't need to learn it from Hargrizim and Arevel, Hareyu Omer, ko, it says the word ko, and what does that mean? Ad sheyomer B'lashon hazeh, it has to be said in this exact same language. We learn it from the pasuk itself. Tanya Yidach, we learned in another brayso, Kosevarchu ba'amida. It says Kosevarchu, we understand that to mean they have to give the blessing standing up. Atzomer ba'amida, einu ela afilu b'yeshiva. You say that it's standing up, maybe it could be sitting down. Nemar kan Kosevarchu v'nemar lahalan ela yamdu levarich. It says here Kosevarchu, and again by Hargrizim, it says they're standing up to bless. Ma'alahalan ba'amida, afkan ba'amida. Just like over there they're standing up, so too over here they're standing up. Rabbi Nosson says, Eino tzarech, we don't need to learn again. We don't need to learn from Hargrizim and Arevel. Harei Omer, it says, L'sharso u'levarech b'shmo. It says to serve him and to bless. And we compare the service to the blessing. Ma'amishar is just like one who serves in the Beis HaMikdash. Ba'amida, the service is done standing up. Af mevarech ba'amida. So too the blessing is given standing up. Umishar is gufe minol. Now where do we know that serving in the Beis HaMikdash is done standing up? That's Minolan. Where do we know it? Like it's written, Lamod l'sharis. It says to stand up and to serve. So you see that serving is done standing up. Tanya Yidach, we learned in another brayso, Kosevarchu b'nesias kapayim. It says, so you should bless with the lifting of the hands. That's Omer b'nesias kapayim, oenu ela shelo b'nesias kapayim. You're saying you have to lift the hands. Maybe you don't have to lift the hands. Nemar kan Kosevarchu. It says over here, so you should bless. V'nemar lahalan vayisa Aaron es yodav elam vayivarchim. And it says over there that Aaron lifted up his hands and he blessed the people. That also, again, it's talking in the same context of the 8th day of the Miluim when they were dedicating the Mishkan. Malahalan b'nesias kapayim. Just like over there was a lifting of the hands. Afkan b'nesias kapayim. So too over here, there is a lifting of the hands. Kasha leila Rabbi Yonasan had the following kasha on this. Imalahalan Kohen Gadol v'Rosh Chodesh v'Avodas Sibor. Over there, we're talking specifically about the Kohen Gadol. It happened on Rosh Chodesh. That was a communal service. Afkan Kohen Gadol v'Rosh Chodesh v'Avodas Sibor. So over here also, we should say that this requirement of the lifting of the hands, maybe it's only if it's the Kohen Gadol on Rosh Chodesh and it's a communal service. And so now the Brisa continues. Rabbi Nosson says, Eino tzarech. So we don't really need to learn from there. Harehu Omer, because it says, Hu uvanav kol hayamim. It says he and his sons for all time. Makish vonav lo. It's a comparison of his sons to him, and so therefore we can understand that there is a comparison. Mahu b'nesias kapayim af bonov b'nesias kapayim. Just like he lifts his hands, the Kohen Gadol, so to his children, even though they're not Kohanim Gadolim, they have to lift their hands. Uchsiv kol hayamim, and it says kol hayamim. That means to say all times. It doesn't have to be only Rosh Chodesh. It could be any time. V'iskish bracha l'sheirus, and furthermore, there's a comparison of the bracha to serving in the Beis Hamikdash, and so we understand that it applies not only by a communal service, it applies by the bracha as well. And Tosfos over here notes, Kasha Leila Rabbi Yonasan, it says it was a Kasha to Rabbi Yonasan, Eino Lashon HaBraisa. Tosfos points out, this is not the normal language of a Braisa, Elo Lashon Perish HaGemara. It says as if the Gemara here is interrupting. V'achi Garsin Allah B'Sifri, but actually in the Sifri they have the text as follows, Rabbi Yonasan Omer Imalahalan. Again, Rabbi Yonasan says, how can you learn from there? If over there it was on Rosh Chodesh with the Kohen Gadol and it was a communal service. And we'll take a look at Rashi over here. Rabbi Nosson Omer, again, Rabbi Nosson says, Eino Tzarech, Mishum de Pirchale Gzer Shava, since they just asked a question on the Gzer Shava, again, that was from Rabbi Yonasan, so Ma'asile B'Hekesha, so he uses this Hekesh, he uses this comparison. Af Bonov B'Nesias Kapayim, we compare his children, his sons, to him, that they lift their hands, V'lo Tikshi Su, Shekain Kohen Gadol, Dein Meshivan Ala Hekesh. We're not going to say, well, there it's a Kohen Gadol, you can't learn to non-Kohen Gadol, because again, you don't ask questions on a Hekesh, and now we're learning from a Hekesh. Uchsiv Kol Hayomim, and it says all the days, v'lo tikshi lachsu Rosh Chodesh v'avodah sibur. It's all the days. It doesn't have to be only Rosh Chodesh. It doesn't only have to be a communal service. V'yiskish bracha l'sheiros, and we compare the Birchas Kohanim to serving in the Beis Hamikdash. Kolomar v'yafa gav dev'haikra lav bracha ksiva. The point of the Gemara here, says Rashi, is because in this pasuk it's not talking about bracha. El l'sheiros, it's talking about service. Lamod l'sharis b'shem Hashem hu uvan of kol hayom. It's talking about standing and serving him and his sons for all days. So iskish bracha v'sheirus b'kra achrina. But there's another pasuk which compares bracha and service, kedamrin and le'el l'sharso u'levarich b'shmo, and so therefore that other pasuk which compares the two, that tells us that this applies by birchas kohanim. And the Gemara continues v'tanyu idach, and we learned in another brayso kosavarchu es b'nei Yisrael b'shem hamaforish. It says, so you should bless b'nei Yisrael, again with the shem hamaforish, yud kei vav kei. Atomer v'shem hamaforish oeinu ela b'kino. You're saying it's shem hamaforish, maybe it's just the way we pronounce it, Aleph Dalid. Talmud Lomar v'samu es shemi hamiyuchad li. The pasuk says, my name, that's my designated name. Yachalaf v'gvulin kain. I might think that's true even outside the Beis Hamikdash. The shem hamaforish should be used. Nemar kan v'samu es shmi v'nemar lahadlin losum es shemo sham. It says over here my name, and it says over there to place his name there. Malahalan Beis Habechir, just like the context of that pasuk is the Beis Hamikdash. Afkan v'Beis Habechir. So to here, only in the Beis Hamikdash is the shem hamaforish going to be used. Rabbi Yoshi Omer, Rabbi Yoshi says, Eino tzarech, you don't need that pasuk for the limud. Harehu Omer b'chol hamakom asher azker es shemi avo elecha. It says, any place where my name is mentioned, or where I allow my name to be mentioned, I'm going to come to you. B'chol makom sal kadaitach, you think anywhere the name of Hashem is allowed to be mentioned. Elam mikrazem misurasu, rather this pasuk, you have to change around the order of the words as follows. B'chol makom asher avo elecha uverachticha, it means, in any place where I come to you to bless you, sham azker es shemi, that's where you can mention my name. And where do I come to bless you? Bebeis HaBechira, that's in the Beis HaMikdash. So Sham Azkir Es Shemi Bebeis HaBechira, it's over there where I allow you to mention my name, again in the Beis HaMikdash. Tanya Yidach, we learned in another brayso, Kosevarchu es b'nei Yisrael. It says, so you should bless b'nei Yisrael. Ein li'ela b'nei Yisrael, geirim noshim ve'avadim mishuchra minayin. I only know the sons of Israel. How do I know converts and women and freed slaves? Talmud Lomar, the pasuk says, Amor lahem l'kulu. It says Emor lahem. It's referring to all of them. The blessing goes on all of them. Tanya Yidach, we learned in another brayso, Kosevarchu panim keneged panim. It says Kosevarchu, that means face to face. That means the Kohanim should be facing the people, and the people should be facing the Kohanim. You're saying that it's face to face. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it's allowed to be faced. They can face them. The Kohanim can face them, but the people can turn their backs. Talmud Lomar Emor Lahem Ka'adam Ha'omer L'Chaveru. It says Emor Lahem. It means the way that a person speaks to his friend. That's Panim Keneged Panim, face to face. Tanya Yidach, we learned in another brayso, Kosevarchu b'kol ram. It says Kosevarchu, it has to be with a loud voice. Awenu ala balachash, maybe it could even be with a whisper. Talmud Lomar Emor Lahem, it says, say to them, Ka'adam sha'omer l'chaver, the way that a person speaks to his friend. And the Gemara continues, Amar Abaya says, Naktinan, we hold the following tradition, L'shnayim kore kohanim. If there are two kohanim, so then the person calls out kohanim. But let's say there's just one Kohen, so Eino Kore Kohen. So he doesn't call out the word Kohen. Shenemar, like it says, Amor Lahem L'shnayim. It says Amor Lahem. that's plural, it's two people, so it's only if there is more than one Kohen that you call out and you say Kohanim before the Birchas Kohanim. V'yomer Rav Chisda said, Naktinan, we hold the following tradition, Kohen Kore Kohanim. A Kohen, he calls out and he says the word Kohanim when he's calling the Kohanim to Duchen. Ve'ein Yisrael Kore Kohanim. But a Yisrael should not call Kohanim. Shenemar, like it says, Amor Lahem, Amira, we're going to say Mishel Lahem. Amor Lahem means it has to be from them, meaning from the Kohanim. Rashi says, first, L'shnayim Kore Kohanim, K'shiyesham Shnei Kohanim Levorich. If you have two Kohanim giving the bracha, so Shliach Tzibur, K'shegamar Birchas Hodah, so the Shliach Tzibur, when he finishes the bracha of Hodah, in the Shmona Esrei, Kore Osan Kohanim, he calls them, he says Kohanim, Vein Hovchin Paneim, and then they turn their faces, Shayu Hafuchin L'tzad HaTevel, Isbalel, because they were turned towards the Oron in order to daven, Do Amrin L'kamon Yiratzim L'fonecho, Shetei Brachazu, they say this again, Yiratzim, Amor Lahem, Mikra de Lahem Nafkal, and Shliach Tzibur Mazir Osan Levorich, that pasuk of Amor Lahem teaches us that the Shliach Tzibur is giving them this warning that they should now give the bracha. Kohen, Kore Kohanim, and then the Gemara said a Kohen says Kohanim, meaning, Im Shliach Tzibur Kohen, if the Shliach Tzibur is a Kohen, Kore Umazir es Chaver V'omdim Lefanav, so then he calls out and he warns his friends, his colleagues, the Kohanim who are standing in front of him, Lahachzir Paneim, that they should turn their faces, Ulevarech es Yisrael, and give the bracha. Im Yisraelu, but if he's Yisrael, Eino Kore Kohanim, he doesn't call out the word Kohanim, he doesn't call those Kohanim, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Lamed Ches Amud Beis.